cold, wintry morning in the year 1944. As Victor stepped down the train, he felt a chill go up his spine as he saw Auschwitz for the very first time. As he moved on the platform, along with his fellow Jewish prisoners, he saw a feared Nazi German SS officer walking towards him with a grim smile. The officer stepped up, mentally weighed him up, and coldly commanded, "To the right." At that moment, Victor saw that a group of old men, women, and children were herded with shouts of, "To the left, to the left." On that fateful evening, Victor came to terms with the horrifying truth that the old men, women, and children had met a gruesome death in the infamous gas chambers of Auschwitz. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, the psychiatrist Viktor E. Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, talks about a man who came across the best and the worst of the human race during the time he spent in the Auschwitz concentration camp. This infamous concentration camp situated in Poland, Europe, was responsible for the death of over 1 million people. In total, it is estimated that 6 million Jews were murdered in the various concentration camps all across Europe. This is the gate of the dreaded Auschwitz concentration camp. The sign on the gate, when translated, says, "Work sets you free." Before I talk on the Nazi concept of freedom, let me ask each one of you a question. How many of you have a problem with getting a tattoo? Can I have a show of hands? Wow, quite a few of you. Can you imagine how it would feel if you had no choice and was forced to have a number branded on your hand for the rest of your life? Yes, this is what happened to the millions of Jewish prisoners who were wrongly imprisoned by Hitler and his Nazi goons. The Nazis had no concept of freedom. They did not believe the Jews were people, mere objects with a number. Let us have a look at how these objects were treated worse than cattle and herded into unhygienic rooms filled to overcapacity. I want every one of you to take a moment, a deep breath, have a look at the faces of these Jewish prisoners. They have had their very humanity squeezed out of them. Doesn't it look like they've lost all meaning and purpose in life? If this did not give you perspective, then let me talk to you about the battle-hardened Allied soldiers who were traumatized at having to see the horrors of these concentration camps. As the Allied soldiers marched into the camp, they saw clothes and shoes piled up to the top of the silent dead. They saw jewelry and barrels of golden teeth taken from the dead bodies of the prisoners. They were horrified at having to see the half-baked bodies reeking with the stench of death in the crematorium ovens of Auschwitz. If all this was not enough, they were shell-shocked at how systematically the Nazis had stockpiled the Cyclone B capsules. These cyanide capsules were responsible for nearly wiping out an entire race of human beings from the face of the earth. The Holocaust proved to the world the devastating effects if racism, fascism, absolutism, and nationalism was allowed to progress unrestrained. Over the last 70 odd years, historians, scientists, and artists have tried to make sense of the Holocaust. Even I have tried to glean some lessons of life from this tragedy of unbelievable proportions. Let us look at an artist's portrayal of a Jewish prisoner. I believe this prisoner, in soul-scarring pain, would have cried and prayed, never again. This battered Jewish prisoner would have ardently hoped that the horrors of racism would never be visited upon anybody ever again. However, mankind has become too cynical and violent, and the horrors of racism, violence, and genocide has visited our world again and again and again. Today, I leave each one of you with this message. Irrespective of what race, religion, gender, or belief systems that we hold close to our hearts, at the end of the day, we all are humans who bleed when cut. Let us put aside our differences and respect the sacrifice of 1 million people lost in the Holocaust, and have the courage to say, in the face of bullying, in the face of racism, in the face of religious intolerance and all other evil, never again, never again, never again. Mr. Toastmaster, never again.